lesson is on finding the slope given a linear graph. So first let's talk about what slope is. The slope of a line tells how steep the line is, and by how much a line rises or increases. It has a positive slope if it rises, or falls, that means it's decreasing, and it has a negative slope. So for example, if we take a look here, we have some ramps, and you will see that they have different steepness. Okay, this one is more flat, this one's a little bit less flat, and this one is the ramp that is the least flat. So you're going more uphill. Okay, so if we take a look at this slope here, this is very difficult to climb. It's very steep. So when we represent slope, and we'll talk about how to find the slopes of those ramps, the letter M will be used to represent the word slope. So the letter M represents as the variable for slope. When you write slope, you will always simplify your answer. And your answer will always be, for this chapter, a simplified either fraction. So that means don't leave your answer as 5/10, instead write it as 1/2. Or instead of leaving your answer as 10/8, you can leave your answer as 5/4. So you can have an improper fraction and just make sure it's simplified. So for example, over here, you can have answers that are half and 5/2, as well as fractions and integers. So you're going to leave your answer, if you were to get 4/2, instead of leaving it in a fraction form, you're going to write it as an integer, 2. So you're going to leave your answer either as an integer, so like -3 or 4, or in fraction form if it can't equal an integer. This means do not write your answer as a decimal. Not that it's wrong to leave your slope as a decimal, but for what we are going to use it in this class, we're going to leave it in fraction form or write it as an integer. Okay, so let's talk about how to tell whether the slope is increasing, it's rising, or it's decreasing, the line falls. So you are going to read a graph. You're going to look from left to right, just like we read a number line when we write interval notation, from left to right. So if we look at this graph right here, this line, and we look at the left side here, okay, so this is the most left point right here, this is closer to the left side, and then if we go to the right side, if we think about snowboarding, if we were snowboarding, we would be going downhill from the left to the, I'm moving my pen to the right. We are going downhill. So the slope of this line is negative. Okay, also notice that the number in front of x is negative, has a negative slope. The next example here, from the left, as I move my pen, if I go this way, I'm not moving it left to right. So if I am snowboarding from the left to the right, I'm climbing the slope. So from left to right, this represents a positive slope. Now if I'm snowboarding here and I'm going from left to right, nothing's happening, I'm okay, I'm just walking along. This represents a slope of 0. So 0. Not none, but we call it a slope of 0. Now if we're snowboarding here, and if this is the ground right here, and we go underneath the ground, we probably will never be found. So that helps me remember that this is called undefined. So when you have a vertical line, it will always have an undefined slope, and I remember it like under. I would be under the snow, and I would never be found. like find. It would never be found. So any vertical line has a slope of undefined. Any line that has a slope of, or a horizontal line will have a slope of 0. Okay, so we've talked about how to tell whether the line falls, increases, has a positive slope, but how do we actually get that this is positive for the slope and that this is -3 the slope? So to actually find the slope, you're going to pick two points on the line that intersect at the corner of the square. Then once you've picked 2 points out, you're going to use the following to help you get your numbers. To find slope, you have to tell how much the line rises and then put it over the horizontal distance, the run. So how much the line rises and how much the line moves horizontally. So let's go ahead and do an example. Okay, so I want to know the slope of this line here. So rise over run. We're going to pick 2 points on the line. Now we're not going to pick this point right here. It does not intersect. We have the corner. We want to pick 2 points that if I ask you what are the ordered pairs, you could read it clearly. So for example, I could pick this point right here because it's clear that the point there is 2, 3. So I pick the point 2, 3. Then you're going to pick one more point. There's lots of good points, so I could pick this one here, or I could pick this one here. So I picked 2 points. I picked 2, 3, and 4, 2. Those are the 2 points I picked. And then you're going to rise and run. So to get from here to here, I have to rise 1 square. So my rise is 1. And then I need to run 1, 2. I have to run to the left 2 squares. So 1, 2. Okay, so that's how I get my numbers. I pick 2 points, I do rise over run. Now to tell if the slope is negative or positive, you read the graph from the left to the right. So if I'm snowboarding and I can only move my pen, this is my board, from the left to the right, I would be going downhill. So my slope would be -1/2. And the negative is just written either with the top number, the numerator, or just out on the side. So you could put it like that, or just out in front. So the slope is -1/2. Okay, let's take a look at another example. So rise over run. So we're going to pick 2 points that intersect perfectly. So I'm going to pick the point 3, 3. And I'm going to pick the point 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6, 4. So I picked 2 points. And you could pick any points at all. And then you have to talk about how much to rise. So to get from here to here, I have to rise 1. Then I have to run 1, 2, 3. 3. Then I'm going to go from the left to the right. If I'm going from the left to the right, I'm going up. So my slope is +1/3. Now, I'm going to do this problem all over again, but I'm not going to use these 2 points. I'm going to pick 2 different points. So I'm going to pick this point right here, which is -3, 1. And then I'm going to pick this point again, right here. So I'm going to pick 3, 3. So I picked 2 different points this time. Now notice these are closer to each other. These 2 are farther, but that's fine. But let's see what happens if I pick 2 points that are on the line, but they're just farther apart. So I have to, in this case now, I have to rise 1, not 1, but I have to go 2. I have to rise 2. Then I have to run 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. I had to run 6. Now it's still positive, even when I pick those 2 points, it's still going up from left to right. But here we get 1 and a 3, here we get 2 and a 6, but they are the same because we are always going to leave our answers simplified. So if we divide both of these by 2, our slope is still 1/3, even though I picked two different points on the line. Okay, let's take a look at example 3. So we're going to pick 2 points, any 2 points. I'm going to pick this one, and I'm going to pick this one. So I picked 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, and I picked 6, 4. Those were the 2 points I picked. And then I'm going to rise 1, 2. And then I need to run 1, 2. And 2 divided by 2 equals 1. Then to tell if the slope is negative or positive, from the left to the right, it's going up. So the slope is positive. Okay, let's take a look at example 4. So we're going to pick 2 points. I'm going to pick the point -2, 3. And I'm going to pick the point -3, 6. Okay, so I need to rise 1, 2, 3. And I need to run 1. 3 divided by 1 is 3. So remember, if it can equal an integer, instead of leaving it in a fraction form, write it as an integer. And then to tell if it's negative or positive, we have to go from the left to the right. So from the left to the right, we're going downhill. So our slope is -3. Okay, last 2 examples here. So here we have a horizontal line. So one way to think about it is if we're snowboarding, nothing's happening. We're not going up, we're not going down, we're just walking right along on the snow. So this is the slope would equal 0. Another way to think about it is using rise over run. So if we pick 2 points on the line, so I'm going to pick this point here, 2, 2. And I'm going to pick this point here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 2. And to get from here to here, I don't have to rise anything, 0. And then I have to run 1, 2, 3. And 0 divided by 3 is 0. So that's a slope of 0. So even if you use the rise over the run, you still get 0. Or whether you think about a little trick that if you're walking along snowboarding, you're just walking, everything's good, it has a slope of 0. Okay, now if we took a look at example 6 here, if we have a vertical line, anytime we have a vertical line, if we are snowboarding and we go under the ground, we would be unable to be found, so undefined. So the M, the slope, is undefined. Now if we use rise over run, and we pick 2 points, so I'm going to pick the point -5, 2, and I'm going to pick the point -5, 4. So I pick those 2 points, and to get from here to here, I have to rise 2. And then I have to go left or right, none. So this is saying 2 divided by 0. 0 times what is 2? Not possible. So if you remember from chapter 1 of this class, we talked that you can't divide by 0. The 0 can never be undefined. You can never have 0 under the line. And that helps me remember you can't ever have 0 in the denominator, under. It's called undefined. Okay, now making sense of this all, If we go back to our wheelchair ramps here, if we find the slope of this, the rise here is 1, and the run, the distance here, is 14. So this slope is 1 over 14. Now I converted it to a decimal, and it's 0.07. If we were, I know I said leave it as a fraction, but just to make more sense out of it, it's about 0.07. Now this one has a rise of 1, and then we have a run of 10. So if we change that to a decimal, that would be 0.10 or 0.1. So far this number is bigger than this one. And then here, this is 1, so the rise is 1, and the run is 6. So if we change that to a decimal, we get 0.17. So this one's the biggest, this one's the second biggest, and this is the smallest. Now notice, as the slope is closer to 0, the closer the slope is to 0, the less steep it is. In other words, it's easier to climb. So when you're looking at your slope, the closer the slope is to 0, it should resemble more of a flat line. So just like this has a slope of 0, it's more flat. If it has a slope of undefined, if you were trying to climb that, that would be hard. That'd be really steep. This is more flat. So if we look here, this slope here is further from 0. This is 3. Think of it as -3. -3 is further from 0, so it is more steep. Whereas this line right here, this had a slope of 1/3. This is closer to 0, so it's more close to being flat. This is easier to climb if we had a wheelchair or we were climbing up it. This would be easier to climb, a slope of 1/3, because it's closer to 0. This would be easier to climb than that one, if we were climbing this one. This is harder. It's farther from 0. Just like this one would be hard to climb. It's closest, this slope here is almost a vertical line here. This would be hard to climb.